A Biographical Synopsis of Rev. Abraham Booth. From the Baptist Encyclopedia by William Cathcart, 1881. Source text scanned and formatted by Jim Duvall of BaptistHistoryHomepage.com. Narrated by Berean Noble Press. Rev. Abraham Booth was born in Blackwell, Derbyshire, England, May 20, 1734. At 10 years of age he was first made to feel a deep concern for his salvation. At 21 he was baptized among the General, or Arminian, Baptists. They encouraged him to preach among them. While engaged in ministering to a church at Kirbywood House, he at first was a bitter enemy of personal election and particular redemption, and he printed a poem in reproach of these doctrines. When it pleased God to open his eyes to see the whole truth, he began to plan a work that would commend the doctrines of grace, and when he was about 33 years old he published his Reign of Grace. Speaking of his Arminian poem, he says, "As a poem, if considered in a critical light, it is despicable, if in a theological view, detestable, as it is an impotent attack on the honor of divine grace, in respect to its glorious freshness, and bold opposition to the sovereignty of God, and as such I renounce it." His Reign of Grace was published through the persuasions of Mr. Venn, a distinguished Episcopal clergyman, who took copies sufficient to enable the author to pay the printer. The publication of this work was the cause of Mr. Booth's removal to London. He was ordained pastor of the Prescott Street Church in that city February 16, 1769. In this field of labor Mr. Booth was eminently useful, and obtained a celebrity which will never perish. He was a man of vast reading in his own language and in Latin, and he was justly reputed one of the most learned men of his day. His friend Dr. Newman says, "As a divine he was a star of the first magnitude, and one of the brightest ornaments of the Baptist denomination to which he belonged." Firm in his attachment to his religious principles, he despised the popular cant about charity, and cultivated genuine candor, which is alike remote from the laxity of latitudinarians and the censoriousness of bigots. His Reign of Grace, and indeed all his works, will continue to instruct and delight the Christian world till the end of time. He was instrumental in founding Stepney College, which has been such a blessing to the British Baptist churches. Mr. Booth was a man of strict integrity, of great devoutness, and of a large knowledge of the divine word. Few men have served the cause of God by their writings, sermons, counsels, and example more effectively than Abraham Booth. He died January 27, 1806, in his 73rd year, after a pastorate of 37 years in London. He was the author of 8 works, besides a number of printed sermons. Some of these works have passed through many editions.